Well, the first ones are leaving the room. No, oh, we're happy that so many are here. Nevertheless, the lecture as such came as quite a surprise. I just found out on the platform at the station yesterday, and this is why we're a little unprepared. But I think we have enough things in the pipeline to show. And as Michelle said, question, you may interrupt us anytime. We just need some time for Michelle to bring you the roving mic for the recording. The two of us are the team in charge of developing the InDesign plugins, the Illustrator plugins, Comet PDF, and the third one in the trio is in a third lecture. I think we can get started. Yes. Put on your safety belts. Good morning. My name is Leo Quenzel. And I wanted to talk about something that I had prepared about the development that will be Comet 5.0. Horst has not mentioned this. We will decouple this from the PUT server because we have different development cycles and we have a different feature cycle than the PUT server. And this does not mean that the plugins that will be released are not compatible with the 4.2, 4.3 PUT server. They continue to be completely compatible. The point is simply to decouple the versioning from the PUT server. And we decided, since we have some major features under development that will be released then, we found it justified to actually put a new major version onto the market. So we've worked hard on the Python integration, and this will also all be released in Comet 5.0. In Comet 4.3, we will focus on bug fixes. But let me start with the basics. What did we do first? Our aim is, of course, to adapt Python to C script in terms of the feature list to have a fully fledged alternative. So we have over 100 new features, which of course I cannot list here in detail. But this is so much closer to the C script integration in terms of the features list. There is a detailed list, of course, in the release notes, and lots was also implemented upon customers' demands. So it was not for completeness sake, but there were real functionalities that were needed. The next big thing that actually was eliminated with the new features is that we can cache persistently the variables. So far, when we had a variable in the C script environment, it was gone with each new script. And in the print cloud environment, we had some projects that had to handle huge XML data sets, XML files with 100,000 queries were fired at a 50 MB XML file. And we can cache this persistently now, especially for Comet PDF. This is very interesting. And this actually brought a project down from 100,000 queries to 100 queries and shortened the script time substantially. This was somehow eliminated by one of the major features I'm going to show you in a minute. But another thing that was also dropped was the clear performance improvements, and I will show them in detail as well. And what Horst already teased in his presentation as a last sentence, we finally have an interactive debugger. And this made sure that we had to reprogram and reshuffle some things internally. And I will also talk about this in detail. I want to briefly talk about the performance improvements. There are various scenarios that you have to look at in practice. Performance is non-binary. There are always different scenarios for optimization. And I played through 4 test scenarios. The first test scenario is a script execution, a comparison between C script and Python, with a basic functionality, but without interaction with the host software. And I mean InDesign, Comet, PDF, Illustrator. So only the functionality of the language itself, so the regulate expressions, list management, etc., without interaction with InDesign. And the following result was obtained. For me, it also came as a surprise personally. The Python interpreter as such is highly optimized. Of course, we've been working on it, developing it for over 30 years now. This is a thing that we cannot keep pace with in terms of development speed, but we're still doing pretty well. We're talking about script executions of 100,000 times, and it only takes us 3.6 seconds for doing so. Then there is a second test scenario that we compiled. In this case, Python is almost 20 times faster. Interact with the document. I actually selected the script turning a frame 100,000 times, and I did it with InDesign, and Illustrator is completely different Comet PDF anyway, but InDesign always does something to the document, so it does more in the background than the other two applications, and there C-script is faster as a result. So things can be weighed. There is no clear advantage being seen between 4.3 and 5.0. But in the third scenario we tested, C script is a little faster, and the third scenario is the script overhead. In other words, what happens if I simply execute a script? The easiest case would be an empty script, and I executed 100,000 times. And this brings us to a very interesting scenario. Python requires 26 minutes, C script 16 seconds. This is unacceptable in practice. So there's a clear potential for improvement, and I'm pretty proud to say that with version 5.0 we were able to catch up. So we're in regions where even in high performance critical exports, we are on par with C script. So we've done it more than 100,000 times faster. And in this scenario, we saved 26 minutes, which is, of course, a theoretical scenario. But it becomes, I will talk about a realistic scenario. Not too long ago, we had a cloud project where we searched a bug. It was about the product layout. We reduced it to 20 products to reproduce the bug. And the following picture came out. We had 800 script call-ups, script queries. I don't have a comparison between 4.3 and 5.0 because we only executed it in Python. And here the scenario is as follows. We have a real performance game of over 100% in a realistic scenario, the way a customer would do it in a customer project. I think it was 140%, 138% in specifically. So we're really on par. And the optimization is really perceivable. But this is only available with the 5.0 version because the whole integration had to be restructured, largely restructured. And in summary, we can say that C script and Python are now on par in performance, in terms of speed, not in terms of the feature set, but with over 100 new functions in this new release, we're really on par. And I think we're on the right track, and we will continue driving this, especially improvements in documentation and the extension of examples. I discussed this with my colleagues that this is still lacking, but we will stay on the ball. And I think we're on a pretty good path. So briefly in summary, I think the feature that most people have been eagerly waiting is the interactive debugger. If you don't know what a debugger is, a debugger allows you to analyze a code while it's running line by line, and it helps the search of bugs so much, and it helps to analyze a code if it behaves extraordinarily. What did we do in all three Puglets in InDesign, Illustrator, and Comet PDF? We have integrated the debug debugger server by Microsoft. On Windows, we also for Mac and Linux, this is a one-line, the pip install debuggy. So the command line pip debug is enough. A debugger always needs a small server. This is the plugins, and the client is where is the Python extension by Visual Studio Code in Microsoft. This is all open source and free of charge, and this is why it is openly accessible and free of charge. I have listed what we can do with this. As I said, we can actually search scripts line by line and analyze them, and even change variables during the runtime. So I can change a number to C, a variable that is a number to see whether my script behaves in a different way, whether it comes up with a different value, for instance. To this end, we had to restructure, and I will talk about this a little later. The whole thing is the basic functionality of a debugger is there. If you've worked with the C+ debugger of Visual Studio, you probably know this feature that you can jump back and forth in the code, and that you can shift the currently executed line. This is what we cannot do, but this is very special. But we can cover 90 to 95% of the application cases. On the remaining items, I would like to give you details. So first, I would like to show you in practice how this works. And I'll switch off my presentation and jump to InDesign. What we have here is a document that I use for internal testing. It makes a difference what's in this document. It's just test trial data in terms of text or copied placeholders, image placeholders, or table placeholders. What I'm going to show is that I have a script here that actually combines various data from this script. It looks for the document, or it searches the comet groups, or the layers of the document, etc. So this test case covers all of the comet data types, and I would like to show a very nice effect when you make this script run. I have to start the debugger, of course. I have to switch it on, otherwise it won't work. And this is under Comet Python debugger activate. Then I'm asked for a port, and this communicate with Visual Studio port, and now I've activated the debugger, and I can see this in the log file. Python debugging started on port 5678. Now in my Visual Studio Code, when I've arranged everything properly, I need to click one button to connect with InDesign. There is a relatively easy configuration, and these are the few lines, and you do not have to write them yourselves. They are actually predefined. And when you've set this all properly in your configuration, then you just have to press start debugging, and nothing happens because there's no script running. Now let's start the script, and you can already see nothing is happening initially because the Visual Studio Code is awaiting some input in the background. And this is the decisive line in my script line, comet debug breakpoint. If the script reaches this point and a debugger is connected, then the program stops and waits for my input. So the next line that is executed is the get host type, host get type, and I can actually jump through line by line, and I'm going to do this now. I jump one line further, And left in my list, I can see that a variable was created. Value is 0. And now my script goes through the document. And now you can see very nicely here that these variables generated can also be inspected. In other words, I have spreads, t-spreads. This is my variable. This is a list of spread objects of my document, and I have 2. Now I can see immediately the number of list entries and meta information. I can see my 3 spreads with the indices and the number of pages that these spreads have. This is also all from our implementation. For each of our clusters, there is meta information that you can see immediately in the debugger. And if I jump a little further down to the document, T-document, if I hover across it with the mouse, I can see the name of my document and in the tooltip, the complete path. So while I analyze my script, I can obtain additional information on the variable, more than I could read from my code. And the script continues, and there's another breakpoint down there. If I say run until the next breakpoint, number 5, then the script, the next line would be return 0. To the left, I can see all of the variables that were created in my main function. What's particularly nice here is I can not only see variables that I have created here, I can also work with expressions. I can say I would like to have from my current, I want to know the name of my G document, get name, and I can actually enter this query, and without this being in my code, I get the name of my document delivered. But be careful, because this is executed in every line. So please don't enter a product structure, otherwise the document will quickly explode. But this is really nice, how you can interactively obtain information. Also very nice is that you can not only get your local variables, but also the variables of the comet module. Whoever has worked with scripting, there's G document always, G placeholder ID, etc. And you can see them here. Document ID is shown here. This is not a pod server document, and this is why it's not filled here. And let me show you another example that contains more, because this is a little product structure. Let's call up a new document. And I actually select 2 products here in my list with this I. And now here I have a script here that just gets the watched products out of the list and creates a product tree. So not only breakpoint is triggered here, but also in a placeholder load action. In other words, I'm still attached with my debugger, so when I execute the script build selected, then in my Visual Studio I can see the product build. So it's stopped here. So I get the list of the watched products. I can inspect this. Which products have I selected? These are the ones I placed my eyes on. And when I now continue and press F5, continue running until the next breakpoint, the system will continue. Action ID 150, placeholder load. And what I see is a call stack. So this is where the script is still active. This is the product build script that triggered the whole thing. And here I have the placeholder load script. And I can go even further in the placeholder load script. The lib, I jumped across it coincidentally. And if I use F11 and jump into the lib, I can see the placeholder load script jumped into the library, and now the script continues there. And here I can actually go step by step and analyze how my product data are loaded. I could also, in actual fact, especially with strings, ings, or floats, change the values. I could use the attribute, which was loaded from a functional variable, could be changed, and then other product data would be loaded from my data source. So I can interactively check and see what happens if I insert a certain value, so I don't have to change the script before. And this allows me in a nicely interactive way to analyze my scripts and debug them. I partly use it on a daily basis for my work and wouldn't want to do without it anymore. And I do hope that it will be received well. But there's some limitations. On the one hand, uh, in the current InDesign server you would like to debug, but for this it must be on the same computer that you have your InDesign server. The Python debugger expects that these files are available locally. They are. This is so the case in they're not available locally in the case of the PAT servers. They're just loaded. So as a workaround, we save it in the X cache and debug them from there. This only works if this is locally accessible. So if you want to do it with an InDesign server that is not locally operated, you probably have to actually install it on the InDesign server and do it from there. But I think it's worthwhile for the features it brings. What else needs to be said in summary to conclude? There's a change that goes hand in hand with this. That is shown in the second point, the breaking change. All constants of the comet module, you know this as comet.k and -1, they are now in a different place in a new submodule. The reason is very simple. This long list of variables, and I can show you the long list of variables, would be included here in this very long list of variables, and I'll show you how long this list really is. So these are all the variables that would be part of the global comet, and this is why we shifted them. So this, of course, requires a small adaptation in all the scripts, but it's a search and replace easily, and you replace comet.k by comet constants.k. So this is all you need to do. And this brings me basically to the end of my part. This was a little fast, but we only have very little time. So if there are any questions, feel free. Oh, comment off the mic. Soon. No, the release of this version was scheduled for after print day. So early next quarter, so it won't take too much longer. If there's an enormous interest in having this, there is always the possibility of saying, well, can you throw one version over and for me to check whether it works for me. Well then, that was it for me, and then I hand the floor to Paul. First of all, I would like to correct a statement Mr. Huber made. The label AI, yes, software has used AI, and for 6 years even. Let me briefly show it to you. Everybody knows this AI. It's DeepL, DeepL, the translation tool that people like so much. This, I exported an InDesign document so that the renderer can read a little. I'll open it, and here you can see it. Yeah, I'll use the mouse. You can see German copy here, part in English. This is all nice. But you can also have a translation entering one line. It takes a while because the machine, of course, has to give it some thought. But what's decisive is that long HU, and DeepL wants to have some money for it, a license. And HU means Hungarian. Probably you can't read it. I can't, but it looks foreign. DeepL has quite a number of languages available. Maybe somebody masters Spanish? As I said, it takes a little while. Oh, obviously, Spanish is harder to translate. What's striking is that DeepL doesn't care about the source language. The target language is what counts. The source language is identified by DeepL, so you don't have to do anything. You just enter Spanish. This is AI. Okay, so we can end this now. We don't have a lot of time left, but Leo showed that Python debugger for C script, same but different, as you say. We have not referred to it as a debugger, but as a tracer, because there's a little difference. It's not so beautiful that it stops at every query and that you can change variables during the runtime. But what we can do, we can actually stop at queries in the script and wait. And let me show you. I've prepared this here. I have a simple InDesign document that I want to execute a script, a very smart script that merges cells of the same content to form one cell, but not thereby creating such high cells that no longer fit, because this is what often happens. Like with a Python debugger, we have a server and a client. InDesign is decisive. You have to tell the C script tracer to start, so you need to activate it. It's like with the Python debugger comet, activate C script tracer, and there's also a C script port, which looks slightly different, which makes sense. And I activate the tracer. Now it's on, and if I execute a script, like with Python, then you have to do a little preparation, but it's really harmless. I would like to execute this script, so the only thing you have to do is to highlight the pragma debug. That's enough. These numbers are not important. If and this is the prerequisite, have a developer or former times a partner license, then the debugger can start. If the thing goes productive and I do not have a developer license, or I haven't activated the debugger, nothing will happen. And you can basically leave it if you forget about it, which often happens. When I execute the script, then it will start automatically, because this is the front row. By the way, this is slightly different. You have files here where you can actually collect sub-files in the C script file. You need a developer license, you said. I suppose a comet developer, not an InDesign developer license, right? Yes, okay, gotcha. So our developer license. The license you also need when you want to edit scripts, and deliberately so. When you have a pro license, the customers are not to see it because they're not supposed to see your work, right? When they look for do a debug, you have to pay attention to one thing: the control. Once the tracer has been activated, the control is not sent from InDesign to the Microsoft debugger, but in our case to the internet browser. So you would activate the one that you have set as a standard browser on your PC. As long as the InDesign has sent it over the control, there's a window you can't avoid. And what you can do here now is you can simply go through, and it stops at every step. And since we do not have a proper debugger but only a tracer, there is a window in the top left to show what the document looks like, and it also jumps to sub-functions, as you can see here. I set a breakpoint and allow the system to run until this breakpoint. And like with the Python debugger, there's a list of variables, there's a function stack, and when you click on it, the editor will jump there. And variables, we tried hard to include relevant information. Some of you may have different ideas. We can talk about this, and not everything has been put into practice yet. Let me show one thing though. In the InDesign document, top left, you can see this little window. This is a so-called web image or URL link. This is the frame here, the FR. And the text you can see here, it's a little spooky, and you can enter this through the little pink triangle. You can even scroll, and you click on the image, and then you see the original image. This, of course, doesn't work with the media proxy download images, but it works with this type of image. And this is in the InDesign desktop. I have to stop it so that we can return to the InDesign. I closed the document without saving it because I would like to show it in the InDesign server. I hope this is the right window. Of course not. Here. I start my InDesign server. Funnily enough, it takes a while. Okay, it's running. To start the script, I need a JavaScript in this particular case, because otherwise I can't talk to the server. But the JavaScript calls up the same script I just called up in the front row, so it'll do the same thing. And I also gave it the same name, so yeah, there it is. No. O1 merge cells full stop JS6. Yes, that's it. And debugger window opens again in the browser. By the way, the links are the same as in the docu, the documentation. So you can always jump to the document and documentation and look at details. And the process is exactly the same. You execute until the end. The beautiful thing is that the InDesign server can be observed. You can observe how what the document currently looks like and what it will look like when you execute the next line, which is a wonderful effect. Was never possible before. We have carried this on and made the product build debuggable. I don't know whether you're aware, where you have dozens of images produced, and you can now jump in and see, well, I'm in this build situation, the frames were inserted, now some rules follow. What does it look like? And there is a relatively detailed documentation on how to do that. You write something behind the debug pragma script. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time now, and And Torsten's, oh no, Alfred's question, when this will be available. Well, as far as we are concerned, the plugins are there. And to answer the question, what about InDesign 25? Because this will be available soon. We also have plugins for this, not tested yet. So before we hand it out to customers, we would like to have a closer look at them. But they do already exist. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.